We have a special, well, he's not a guest, he's here so much. Mike Becker, our board chair, came today. Thank you, Mike. Thanks for your service. Actually, Mr. Becker's had a great run as chair. We've had a lot of fun and been very productive, outstanding leader. And this summer is when we hand the baton. And Denise Fieser, an alum of Marion, will be our chair. And I can't say first female chair because the sisters used to chair the board. But I think it might be our first lay female chair, which is another great thing for Marion University. So, it's Dr. Martin Luther King Week. Do you think Dr. Martin Luther King would have been famous if he said, I have a strategic plan and I'm going to give you an update there, the Capitol steps? They'd just start going to the ice cream shops and coffee shops and say, you go ahead and update. So I won't start that way, okay? We will do a little touch base on the strategic plan. I thought the first thing I would do is kind of share the environment and where we're at as Marion University, the environment we work in. Every January, independent college presidents come together. I think I'm supposed to keep this in case I switch slides. So anyway, they come together and they talk about the state of higher education. It's the largest gathering I know of college university presidents, and there's all sorts of them. And it seems like every year, and this year it was ratcheted up really high, about the terrible challenges, exciting challenges, even sometimes dire straits that higher ed finds itself in. In many parts of the country where a lot of higher ed assets are built up, many college universities, you have flat or declining 18-year-old numbers. This is a challenge. Public confidence in higher ed is really at an all-time low. A number of researchers showed, it wasn't just my opinion, there's a lot of good data out there. I find it hard to believe, working with y'all every day, people don't trust higher ed for various reasons. They think there's one way of thinking, it's slow moving, too expensive, isn't worth the value. A lot of people who study the finances and status of higher ed are predicting 20 to 40% of higher education institutions in the next 20 years will be gone. Poof. And others will struggle mightily. Interesting. On a more positive note, I was sitting there and I was trying to be humble. Sure glad I was at Marion University. I felt very blessed with that fact. And when other people got up and shared research, matter of fact, I went to a big deal, a dinner, and Beth was there. They have programs for spouses, and whenever we travel, we do a little fundraiser. You always want to get your trip paid for, right? So we always, that's our minimum goal. Make sure it doesn't cost anything. Board chair likes that. So anyway, I go to this great big gathering, and they introduce a new book. And Joanne Soliday, some of you have met her maybe, she does a lot of research. She wrote the book From Surviving to Thriving, and a lot of interesting books about higher ed. And this one's called Pivot. And when she was writing the book, she asked if she could interview some of our people, because we're one of the, probably the last 4 or 5 years, if you average, the fourth fastest growing institution of Catholic higher ed in the nation. And that's pretty remarkable because we're in a state with flat, Great Lakes region, we're missing some 18-year-olds in action. I guess they all moved to Florida. But whatever happened, we're losing them. And we're going like that as an institution. And so they interviewed Jack Snyder, our board chair, former board chair, emeritus, and a number of, I know they talked to Dr. Hennike, a number of our vice presidents. And so they're talking about this research in this book. And Marion University is plastered all throughout about different things we've done. And Spelman College, and they took an example of a rural college in South Dakota, Dakota Wesleyan, who's their president's quite a remarkable woman. She's become friends with her over the years. And, Maryville, which they grew mostly through online adult. But I thought I'd take that research and why we're mentioning there, I want to mention the bigger vision of how you advance. Here's what the research and studies are saying. And we had some great speakers there. Howard Gardner was there, and the fellow, the co-author of The Coddling of the American Mind, I would suggest you read it. It explains a lot about some of the students we get and what's going on in our society. Good people, but the way how people are dealing with differences of opinion, etc. in today's modern society with social media. It's very enlightening. But here's a few things I wanted to, why am I glad to be at Marian University? The number one thing that I've, no, number one thing, but it's very clear from the research and the people that are talking about how do you avoid demise? Courage. You've got to be working with people, and I can compliment the sisters with the courage to venture. You've got to be working with people with the courage to make moves. It's easier to talk about, think about, consider about, hope for, win the lottery or something. It takes courage to make a move from what you know to where you have to go. And in my time of service here, that's been a good theme here. We've had the courage, I think it's a prayerful, thoughtful move. We've moved. Think of the differences. We've been good partners. Really, the constant voice in our leadership here since I've been here is Deb Lawrence on that. You get more done with partnership. And we've done it with the state, we've done it with the city, we've done it with healthcare, we've done it with business. Dr. Kershaw's outstanding leadership of the Byron School is we partner with business, we're hands-on. Everywhere where we made great, and guess what? When they're doing the research, our institution's moving, they're partner-minded. When they're insular and enclosed on themselves, they struggle. Bold, they've made bold moves. That's why we're in the pivot book about becoming a university, starting a medical school. The Clips Educators College is mentioned in it. That's a bold move, that's a different paradigm. That's taken a relatively small university and say we want to be a national player in research, etc. in some areas. It seems like the universities are doing well. Here's what this one speaker said. Look, if you incrementally change only as a university in a world of dramatic change, incremental versus dramatic change, you lose every time. You can't do it. If the other team's scoring 7 points for every touchdown and you're getting 1, you keep scoring your touchdowns, but you're going to lose. Bold moves, big ideas will win. By the way, Father Hesberg told me that years ago when I first moved to Indiana. I got a meeting with him. He said it's easier to do big things than small things. I've mentioned that before. It proves Father Hesberg might have known something about leadership. He's got that Marion North operation that he put in motion. So anyway, leadership across the institution. The places that are moving aren't spending time fighting between board and administration and faculty and staff and students. Oh, you're going to have your spirited discussions, but by and large, they've found a way to cooperate, to share responsibility for the institution and lead and move. It's easy to find your differences. Even have major wars and great turnover and firing people and get in the newspaper. A lot of higher ed around the country are big drama plays. Now again, we'll have our spirited moments, and we should, because we care about things and we're thinkers. But where leadership has stayed together over a long period of time, I mean leadership, not titles. I'm talking about leaders, individual faculty, et cetera, et cetera. That's the places that are making progress. We've done that here. Very interesting. Howard Gardner's been studying higher ed. He's the guy with multiple intelligences and ethics. And he's the Harvard professor, very well known. Some of you have probably read his research. He got a great big series of grants, multi-million dollars, and he's been interviewing students all across all different type of institutions, board members, faculty, staff. And he said, you know what everybody wants in higher ed? It's pretty hard to find, but everybody, where there's a common drive, students. Institutions that focus at every turn on their students' benefit are being successful. When that's out of whack, and by the way, I would say of all these items over the years, Imperfect, of course. By and large, our people care deeply about the welfare of students and invest heavily in them. Faculty, staff here, and alumni, and our donors. The other thing they found in common, the institutions that are bucking the trends, that was, I guess, edifying and encouraging to me. It's in Pivot, it's in a lot of the presentations. You get a lot of these, you get plenary sessions, a lot of individual sessions. Students, institutions that are doing well actually use their strategic plan to prioritize. Once you try to do everything at once, you get nothing done. And people that have taken and said, we're going to measure, we're going to go from here to here by when, and measure it based on the plan priorities, they do very, very well. And it ends up being a good case statement for fundraising. It helps you with getting students and everything. So in a way, you only have to do 6 things to thrive in a tough environment. Of course, everything's easy if you do it. So, oh yeah, a real quick academic quality. A couple of things I just want to remind ourselves of, because some numbers are in since the fall. The GPA of our students this year went from 3.47, yes, average, to 3.53 this year. So we keep getting the better students. We're approaching the point where almost half of our students we admit are in the top 4th of their class. That's a big change from even 2015 that had been much lower. We're getting an ambitious, interested student. So we're at 48%, almost 49% of our students are in the top 4th of their class, first-year students. This is a good thing. We're moving up in the U.S. News, you know that. Dr. Uffman, really, to his credit, helped work with the faculty to get a year-long onboarding for faculty improvement, and that's a great thing. The leadership program, faculty of work on learning outcomes, we're putting that together, and that'll take new steps this year. 2 new programs, computer science, social work, off and running. The board last meeting approved a doctoral program in leadership. So we'll be adding another doctoral program, and the faculty's working hard to get together, and we'll take it to the Higher Learning Commission. We're in the process of hiring 34 new faculty. 15 are brand new positions. About 3/4 of our faculty now are PhD faculty. And in a university like ours, where you have nursing and a lot of professional, you hire a lot of people with less than terminal degrees, but the degree you need to teach the practice. And that's been our priority, but still we're making progress. STEM planning's going well. We're going to have another big, bold move in STEM and health sciences. And I mentioned earlier, you're going to see a public announcement. Dr. Sefcik is going to become Senior Vice President of Health Sciences and devote time to really growing our health sciences program. So in addition to being dean, and he's built up quite a staff, he's going to take on more responsibility. We're going to move forward, take another leap in the health sciences area. So we're happy with that. We're very much connected with the community in the STEM programs. Office of Sponsored Programs and Research is expanding. We have something going there. The College of Arts and Science programs are engaged in curriculum review and strategic development planning. For 100% of the programs use what we would call high impact practices, so I appreciate what Dr. Morrow is doing there. Enrollment's great. I mean, this year's application pool is up 6%. The admitted students are up a little over like 1.5%. And Dr. Wilson says I put too much attention on this, but our deposits are up 34%. He said it's early in the game. I'll defer to Dr. Woolston, he's usually right. But the sign is we didn't just have a one-year wonder in our big first-time full-time freshmen. It looks like it's going to be a consistent pattern. That's a happy challenge, by the way, because we're going to have to find a place for them all to sleep. So anyway, we had a 10% increase in seniors visiting campus. The caliber, when you increase a pool like that, you worry about the caliber of students going down, because usually when you open the aperture, it's actually up a touch. So that's a great thing. financial aid packages, et cetera, sent out are up 11%. Our retention is a big story here. The first years I started looking at it, we were around 59% freshman to sophomore. Now we're in the 80s. We're working with Credo. We're going to drive that up further. That was an important piece. As a faculty staff, if we want to do something really, really good for our students, we'll pay even more attention to retention. Attention to retention, okay? We're going to have to move it to sophomore to graduation rates all the way through. It's good for the students, it's good for our academic profile, it's very good for our finances. You have to work hard on retention. This is kind of amazing. The 2014-15 year, we graduated 646 students. Last year, 933. We're well along our way to hit our WIG to double the number of graduates by 2025. And I think it's double plus whatever, Tom. It's just a rounding thing. Tom corrected me a couple times on that. So we're going to more than double it if we keep on pace. And with these new programs, I believe we'll get there. We're doing things with Ivy Tech. We do need to do a better job with transfers. We're going to have to keep working on that. But that's moving along. Our grad and online, we're already at 4,400 applicants to the first year medical students class. So we keep getting a larger pool of people who want to be part of our medical school program, and quality of their students is going well. So we have a lot going on there. What's an inquisitive graduate look like and think like? Skilled, ethical, healthy person, healthy approach to life. And we're going to build that up. We're going to make some more organizational moves. The Walker Center will indeed open. We're doing a national search for a director in ethics. We're doing some wonderful things in the med school and across the curriculum. But at 3 levels, the Walker Center will stimulate growth in ethics. How we teach our undergraduate and graduate students ethics and integrate it. How we work with the business, professional, healthcare communities in promoting ethics, teaching ethics, certifications in ethics. And then we're going to get a research agenda going in ethics together as an institution. So there's going to be great movement there, and that'll be a big part of our leadership program. Our resources continue to expand. This Saturday, we're going to bless and have a big celebration in the arena, and we're going to have a kids fair, a carnival, whatever you call it. And so Mr. Downing and I would like everybody to show up and have fun. If you need tickets to the game, there's been an email sent out how to do that for you and your family, because we want everybody to be there, right? And it'll be a big celebration. If you haven't been to the facility, it's quite remarkable, and we've had a lot of people donate and help us out there. We, every year, set an audacious goal on fundraising for an institution our size, and we like to be between $20 and $30 million. And we're at 15.9 million after 6 months. So, John, you should hit 30. That's not fair. It doesn't always come with those kind of jumps, but we wouldn't mind it lately. You know what's more amazing about that? We're at $12 million now. Our capital campaign, we wanted to hit 150 by 2021. We hope to hit it a little earlier, and then we would announce, let's go for another 100 million and make it 250, because that's the budget fundraising we put in our 2025 plan. So we're working hard at it. By the way, I think this is one of the highest % of faculty staff giving years we've ever had, so thank you. You did a nice job there. The budget process is moving along well. I called Greg Gender. He had big ankle surgery. I don't know if you knew that. But I checked in on him yesterday, and he's still working away from home, so we'll get him back. But so far, he's had great meetings with all the department chairs and deans, so thank you for your work. That'll go well. We mentioned partnerships. We have a mission collaboration with St. Joe's College. Deb's working hard. We had a donor give us a consultant. There'll probably be an article soon, so I thought I'd mention it. We've been kind of laying under the radar, but the Indianapolis Business Journal called about it, so we think we may be. But we put out a request for proposals by developers to work with Marian University to develop LaRue Carter. Maybe put the two-year college or St. Joseph's Indy there. We could maybe put some market rate housing in there. We think we need student housing and other kind of development. So we're hoping to get a hold of that facility, and that'll help us with our space needs and growth. It's a beautiful old building, but we have to get it in a certain condition, a certain way. We're going to need partners. But we're moving forward on that. We're working really hard to get a piece of land from the city on the parks that are by us to put our baseball field. And Deb's moving that along very skillfully, not in her impatient friend, the president's mind, but she's moving along just nice. We're putting in a request to take over the Iron Skillet, to put some things there. We could have parking, maybe student housing, a restaurant, something like that. We'd like to see something new in that corner. The city actually owns that building, and they want to do something different with it. So we hope to get a hold of that. Human Resources is working very, very hard, 40X, so we're not only getting more resource, we're managing it well. Something I wanted to focus, I'm going to do this as we move along through the strategic plan the next couple of years. In each State of the University address, I'm going to take one power goal. I've talked about resources, I've talked about leadership, enrollment, I've talked about academic quality. I want to spend some time on mission identity and take questions. I think, oh, this is the one I've been waiting for. This is the great philosopher king, Dr. Tom Ineke. And this is his quote. He looked at me one day early in our work together and he said, Dan, this is hard. It's hard to lead a Catholic university. He had been in secular, and of course you could tell that, secular, godless places. Actually, that's a little hard, but not that hard, but it's a little hard. But he said that one day to me. It is true. There's a higher calling here, and there's other higher issues you have to attend to if you want to run a Catholic university and do it with distinction and distinctiveness and in enriching ways. And just to show you I'm a broad-minded fellow, I'm quoting President William Jefferson Clinton. Now, he's not exactly the paragon of virtue and good morals and ethics, okay? But I did it for a reason. First of all, I've always liked this quote. There is nothing wrong with America that cannot be cured with what is right in America. There's a lot of truth to that. The strength of freedom, of entrepreneurship, of association like we do, we collect in America. I did it for another reason. A little bit of my mission identity talk here is there are people that live differently than we do. They think differently than you do. I wanted to get a mega hat, but I didn't have one. You put a mega hat on, you can still, say you hate that mega stuff, you still love the person. You find redeeming quality wherever you can find it and latch onto it. It's too easy. It is very easy in today's social political environment. When Cardinal Tobin gave his commencement speech, he talked about something that was quite interesting. I don't know if you picked up on it. He talked about fences and walling people off. But he didn't talk about the physical wall or barrier. He talked more about the electronic walls, the only watching one station wall, the only talking to people that think like you, this group and tribe mentality. My tribe's good, your tribe's bad. I believe this, you believe that, so you must be bad, I'm good. Like I said, I'm not a big fan of President Clinton, but he had a lot of good ideas, and I can respect pieces and parts, can't we? So that's my contribution to that message. Now, this is more my quote. There is nothing wrong with higher education that cannot be cured with what is right in Catholic higher education. I don't think you'll quote me later. I do believe, when you choose to be a president or serve in an institution of Catholic higher ed, you're choosing something that requires fidelity, thoughtfulness, respect, study, and prayer. Our founder, I put the San Damiano cross on the stage. Jesus Christ had a distinct message for us, and it's very challenging. He was countercultural. This is a Christ-centered Christian institution, period. I hope that's the Pope calling. Someone's probably beaming this speech up to him. He has some comments. Dan? Yes. I don't think it's him. But anyway, Christ is the message. And then you might say, well, that was a long time ago. Jesus strolled the earth. Who's supposed to say today what Christ is? It's the Catholic Church. We're a Catholic institution. That's our standard. What do we believe? What do we think? As an institution, we go to the church. The church defines it for today, and it evolved. The church studies natural law, theology, all the various disciplines, our experience, and it rolls. There are a lot of versions of Christianity. By the way, that's inside the church too, by the way. Amongst Catholics, there's some lively debate. And then with our other friends in non-Christian faiths. And then there's the nuns. I don't mean the sisters, but people who have no affiliation. And we're all together in one society. We're all together in one learning community. And we have to move forward together. What is challenging in the world today, I was going to bring a stone about throwing stones, but Adam said, I don't want you to do it. I think he was afraid of what I'd do with it. I think he was afraid I was accusing you all of adultery. I'm not. I mean, there's funny that kind of thing goes around, but I don't think it's here. My larger point was you can throw stones now today in many ways. And a lot of it's electronic. I think Cardinal Tobin had it right. You can take a snippet or a piece of anything and destroy a person. This weekend I was observing this Covington Catholic, these students. They took one piece and pillared them, and as you look at the whole piece, I told Beth, my wife, I thought that boy was wild. When I was his age, I'm afraid what I'd have done with that drum. I thought he was pretty restrained. So you can take any piece, any comment out of context, and you can go to town with social media and different things. So being a Catholic university in this environment is exactly what's needed. Everybody in this community is made in the image and likeness of God and has value. And you're responsible to form your conscience to be informed. And we have to be in a respectful dialogue about what that means. And that's what it means to be Catholic higher ed, and that's what's needed. I went back to Excordia Ecclesia. I really like, if you haven't read it, and we're going to provide more opportunities for people to know and think about a Catholic higher ed. But the church calls Catholic higher ed a privileged place where church and culture are encountered, meet one another, and have a dialogue, a rich dialogue, a fruitful, the word fruitful dialogue is in there. Fruitful, not demeaning, not destructive. Not, ultimately, we don't judge anybody. That's what do they call it? That's a higher classification or what? Academic research and pursuit of the truth. These are the elements of Catholic higher ed. Strong theology. Every one of our theology professors has a mandatum from the Archbishop. I often thank Andy Holman. I don't see him that much. I have to thank him alone, but he built a great theology faculty. We have a great theology faculty. Developed a Catholic Studies program. We've made tremendous progress. We've added bodies in theology and high-quality theologians and philosophers. Christian witness. We do that well. Art. The kind of speakers and things we do here. A Catholic university should be a Christian witness to the world of how you do business of higher ed. Some higher ed They destroy things if they see a speaker they don't like. Or they just go and scream and yell so the other person can't even talk. Totally disrespectful. With our beliefs of people's dignity and the respect you should have for people, we are to be a witness, to give prayer and worship, our liturgy program, music program. What we're doing, we're going to have a full-time chaplain, by the way. Father Barry, a remarkably talented person, bilingual, will be our full-time chaplain. He'll be here in March. So the sacramental life, the prayer life, a Eucharistic adoration, interfaith prayer, you go down the list, we're doing a lot in that area. We can be very proud of it. I see groups pray around the fountain before they get on a bus to go to a speech contest. And they pray. If you go to a locker room in this institution, people share prayer together. It's pervasive. I see it in classrooms. I see it in meetings. When people want to know about our mission identity, we have challenges and places to grow, of course. But our progress is remarkable. Service. I mean, the San Damiano alone, I think, did about 10,000 hours service. Our San Damiano program wasn't that long ago. We had 70 students. What do we have, 160, 170 now? The staff, we've added probably 5 members to the campus ministry staff. I mean, we do service here and around the world, med school, nursing school. You just go up and down the line. We do things in our neighborhood. I was down at the Holy Family Shelter the other day. They do so much work right in their neighborhood. Where would they be without Marion, they would say. When you see 3 busloads of our students go to the pro-life march, and I think the seminarians, you all had a separate vehicle. I think you had some special digs there you guys got to go to. Where's my invite, by the way? Next year, let's give me a call. I heard you got some nice opportunities, but we're a witness. We're doing great things every day. Strong campus ministry staff, and Adam, I appreciate your leadership. And the sisters have always given us a good vice president for mission effectiveness. But if you look what we're doing to close the opportunity gap, 2-year college, Latino initiative, educators college. We're reaching into the community. Are we a witness? Do we care about our fellow human being? Do we pray? Do we have pastoral services? Are we building community? You better believe it. And we can do it in respect with people of their faith and different versions of what we understand. We stay in dialogue respectfully. Dignity of the individual is the key in the whole process. We look at our people when we say, how could we advance? Recently, there's a fellow, Chris and Julie Lamoth, are good, generous donors to the Eclipse Educators College. And it was late in February, it was a cold morning. Chris looked at me and said, if I was going to give you more money, well, he said, if you were going to put money in helping Christ be more present on campus, how would you do it? I said, first of all, are you deducting from your gift or are you going to add? We don't do deduct those. So anyway, he said, I'm adding. Okay, so I took the nerve out of the thing. So he's going to give us $50,000. And I said, what I'd really like to do is give more opportunities for our faculty, staff, and students, and friends, board, to learn more about the faith, to prayerfully reflect, what do we teach and why? The beautiful thing about the church, even if you don't agree with it, there's substance there. There's a thorough understanding of natural law. There's been theological exploration. The church is a thoughtful, slow-moving, but thoughtful organization. It sets a clear standard for us, and I'm not too sure we always know what the standard is or what's behind it. Because 2 things, by the way, there's a lot of nuance in mission. You know, you can say this is a sin. I love the sinner. You can be on death row after killing 5 or 6 people, and the church does not say that person's condemned. Now, the church does say it's inherently evil to destroy life from conception to natural death. Those 2 things live together. We don't condemn or hate people because of what they do. We teach, we love, we serve. And frankly, practically, if you want to prepare leaders to be transformational leaders in the world, and the Pope talks about this, you got to get He talks somebody called sheep poop on your feet. You got to be out with the people. You can't get in the little, I like that little phrase. You ever smell that stuff? If you've ever been out in a Nebraska farm and walk out in the barnyard, a good farmer never keeps their boots on when they go in the kitchen. Okay, you get thrown out. You put your boots by the mud bench. But you got to be out in it, in the world, with very differing views and differing people. A university that was to be a Catholic university, with all the respectful discussion and different ideas and search of truth from different perspectives, is actually preparing the future ministers, the future teachers, the future healthcare workers, the future business leaders, because that's the environment you're going to live in. That's the world. So if you can only work with people exactly like you, that think exactly like you, understand everything exactly like you, you're going to be down to one friend, yourself. I mean, for families and communities to stay together, you have to be in a dialogue that makes sense and is respectful. It's respectful to our teachings. If you're going to work at a Catholic university, you should know what the church teaches. You should respect it. You never use it, and our handbook says it, you never use this classroom as a platform to denigrate or facilities or gathering. You don't do that. That's disrespectful. You don't go into someone's home and mission and say, then you got to wonder, why are you here? But we can do it respectfully and search for the truth. The church is not afraid of the truth. It's our people. And so, this is what we're made of. We're on a journey. Mission identity, tremendous progress. I could have just overloaded you with facts and figures about how the faith of this institution informs our work and our community life. Are there places we can grow? Certainly. In language and how we understand things, and we're going to do it. The more distinctly we latch on, I talked about successful institutions. If you're distinctive, you understand it, and you live it, you're much more successful as an institution, as people, as a church, as an educational enterprise. So I want to talk about that a little bit. By the way, in addition, I have, depending on your point of view, good news and bad news. In December, with the last board meeting, I signed an extension of my contract. So I think I was supposed to be around 3 more years. Now I'm going to be around at least 6 more years. I'm going to be here at least till 20, unless the good Lord has something different planned. I'm going to be here till 2025, and then we're going to go year to year, see how it feels. So how's that? We're going to put out a press release. But right now, any questions or ideas or comments about mission identity or anything, frankly? Because I'm very open to answering questions you might have. No storming. Uh-oh, Teresa Roberts. You're pretty nice. I'm not scared. I go to church with her. We're in the same parish.
I have 2 questions for you. One is, if you could identify one thing about being at a Catholic university, being president of a Catholic university, what would be your, what are you most proud of being at a Catholic university, mainly Marian University? And then my second question is, if someone were to have a question or a concern about our Catholic identity on campus, who would you recommend be their first line of contact?
Tom King. He's the one that said it. He popped off. No. I would say the first thing I would say, I don't know, that's a really hard question, Teresa. I would say that we have a standard. I must say that as I've gone along and we've had success, other people try to recruit presidents there. I guess people don't like the job that much, and they're always trying to get you to move to another place. And I have found the big thing about Marian is our faith dimension. I talked to a student not long ago. Matter of fact, he came back. He wanted, Bill Drew was the commencement speaker, and now he was one of our first engineering graduates, and he had this idea and he wanted to expand his business, and he sent an email and he wanted to meet with me. So anyway, I remember the kid. He played basketball. He's a big kid, nice guy. But I remember asking him one day, I often do this in the spring. I won't use his name, I don't want to embarrass him, but he remembered Bill Drew getting an honorary doctorate, and he wanted to see how he could get into expand his business. So I put them together. But I said, you know, you don't remember this, but when I asked you, he was not of the Catholic faith. His parents his mother was deceased, but his dad's a Christian fellow. I said, what's the best thing about Marion if you were president? He was a senior, fifth-year senior. And he said, I was talking to my dad about this. I've never been a place where people are so nice to me. Consistently, he said, everybody's been so nice to me here. My coaches, my young African-American kids, big kid. I think he went to Ben Davis. And he said, I said that to my dad. He said, that's because they have religion. And I've often thought about that. When you think about the care of our faculty, I think we attract people who are other-centered and want to do something big with their life and help people do something big with their life. I think just having a standard about how we view the human person and why we serve and where we get our gifts to teach, I think is the best. In terms of where you go, first of all, be careful just huddling with people who think exactly like you. I'd go to, frankly, one of my favorite ones is Dr. Sherman. Adam, you're pretty good too. But we'll have a question about how do we play out this faith and the language we should use and other professors. Father Barry will be good. Father Joe Moriarty, now he's got a pretty big job down the street. But I think you start a dialogue. How can both these things be true? How could this be inherently evil, but we love the person? By the way, one thing I was going to say about throwing stones electronically, we're going to do some training on this. I've been on some boards where I've received training. Social media, it is not private. It is never private. If you put something in an email, or you send out some deal, you get a little bit up about an issue and call somebody an effing whatever, it will live and live. When you represent the professorate, staff at a Catholic university, when you represent yourself and you're building a resume to go get a job, you know, I know too many people to hire what they do. They do a social media scan. They want to see what kind of a character you are at night. And it's easy, you know, when I'm face-to-face with a guy, it's hard to call him a name like that. First of all, you could get hit. But in social media, a guy 100 miles away, you can call all sorts of names. Big deal. What did you accomplish? What's the spirit of that? And everybody's, by the way, if there's anybody here that's never said something they shouldn't have said about someone or etc., you're unusual. Let me put it that way. But on social media, I'd be particularly careful of that. And again, reflect back on our standard. Does it advance the human dignity of another person or does it decrease it? Is it a sign of an intellectually wired-in person, intelligent person? Or is it someone that lost their wit for a minute? Because we're smart people. This is an academic environment. We talk to one another in thoughtful ways, I hope. Fairly consistent. We're human. We're going to slip up. But in this environment, be very, very smart about how you use social media, students, faculty, staff, president, board, whoever. Because it represents you, it represents us. We know that, but I think it's hard to imagine the power of social media. It just goes forever. It won't die. You can't stamp it out. So be careful of that. Any other questions or comments? So, we have a big semester with the STEM planning. We're going to advance the college of the Clips College. We're going to advance this innovative two-year college. Is going to be a big undertaking. A lot of prayers. Everybody needs support. Jeff Jordan, I saw you here. Dr. Nichols, I see you here. We're starting a new college. That's no little task. And it's going to be a big blessing to those we serve. And another sign of Marion being a leadership institution. Enrollment is going strong, but it's not in the bag by any means, is it, Dr. Wilson? That's a lot of work. Graduate enrollment, it's not just undergraduates. Retention, that's in our hands. We'll make a little presentation at the February 8th faculty meeting about the importance of our next move on advancing retention. Fundraising will be a heavy lift. You know, fundraising compared to picking apples in a tree, we've already got the low branches pretty well naked. We don't want to hire that tree every day. So it's getting, you need bigger ladders. But say a prayer, be generous, stay together. The things that made us great, cooperation, leadership, courage, follow the plan, be bold whenever we can, improve every day what you're doing. Thank you for your time. Easy questions, and if you ever, let's keep moving along in our dialogue and advance the Catholic dimension of our mission, because it's so important and central to what we do and why we do it. Thank you. God bless.